There are accounts of the great King Solomon working with demons. What is behind these stories? King Solomon, a figure of profound wisdom and complexity, occupies a unique place in the annals of history and mythology.
The fame of King Solomon has spread like a rising tide, even as far as Axum and Saba.
Renowned primarily for his wisdom in the building of the first temple in Jerusalem, Solomon's narrative extends into the more esoteric realms of magic and demonology, particularly in various Jewish, Christian, and Islamic texts. This video explores the legendary accounts of Solomon's interactions with demons, the theological and moral implications of these stories, and their enduring impact on cultural and occult traditions. King Solomon, son of King David and Bathsheba, is a prominent figure in the Hebrew Bible where he is most famous for his wisdom. According to the biblical accounts in 1 Kings and 2 Chronicles, Solomon's reign was characterized by unprecedented peace and prosperity. He is credited with the construction of the temple in Jerusalem, which held the Ark of the Covenant and served as the spiritual center of the Jewish people. Solomon's reign is often considered the peak of Israel's power and prosperity. However, his downfall is partly attributed to his marriages to foreign women and his subsequent idolatry, which some later traditions interpret as linked to demonic influences.
A sorcerer of the dark arts, a charmer of snakes and demons, a man capable of healing the crippled with just a touch of his cloak.
Beyond this biblical portrayal, Solomon emerges in various folklore traditions, particularly in texts like the Testament of Solomon, a pseudepigraphical work that dates back to the early centuries CE. In this text, Solomon is portrayed as using his wisdom to interrogate and control demons, learning about their abilities, hierarchies, and the ways to thwart their evil influences. The text also describes how Solomon harnessed the demons' knowledge and powers for various purposes, such as construction and healing. According to the narrative, Solomon received a magical ring from the archangel Michael, which gave him the power to summon and command demons. This ring, often referred to as the Seal of Solomon, enabled him to harness the labor of demons to construct the temple. He used his wisdom and the power of the Seal of Solomon to compel the demons to cut and transport the massive stones needed for the construction. This story highlights Solomon's ability to harness the power of demons for constructive purposes.
There may Asmodus himself suckle from your diseased teat.
The most famous of these demons, Asmodus, is portrayed as both a figure of wisdom and malevolence, providing Solomon with both labor and mystical knowledge, but also challenging him with riddles and moral dilemmas. In one story, Asmodus challenged Solomon's wisdom and tricked him into giving up his signet ring. As a result, Asmodus took Solomon's place on the throne, while the real king wandered his kingdom in poverty. Eventually, Solomon regained his ring and his throne, banishing Asmodus and reasserting his control over the demons. In Islamic tradition, King Solomon's control over demons is also recognized.
The article on the net says there's this stone of the sacred fire with this genie, this jinn thing locked inside it.
The Quran refers to Solomon's ability to command jinn or genies, often interpreted as demons or spirits in English translations. According to these accounts, Solomon could summon and bind jinn to perform tasks, such as constructing grand architectural feats like the temple. It is important to note that these stories and legends are not part of the canonical biblical narrative. They are derived from later Jewish and Islamic traditions, as well as medieval folklore. These tales serve to emphasize Solomon's legendary wisdom, his mastery over the supernatural realm, and his role in combating evil forces. In these stories, demons are not merely evil entities, but are complex beings with specific names, characteristics, and areas of influence. For instance, the demon Asmodus is portrayed as a destructor of marriages, while another, Ornias, harasses humans by stealing their vital energies. Through his interactions, Solomon not only controls these spirits but also gains knowledge from them, which contributes to his legendary wisdom. The narratives of King Solomon and demons serve multiple purposes in these traditions. They highlight Solomon's wisdom and divine favor, depicting him as a ruler with unparalleled authority. They also provide a mythological explanation for the construction of significant religious structures, attributing their creation to supernatural forces under Solomon's command. The stories of Solomon and his dealings with demons pose significant theological and moral questions. They touch on themes of power, how it should be acquired, how it should be used, and the dangers inherent in its abuse. Solomon's use of demonic powers to build a temple dedicated to God introduces a paradox. It suggests that the sacred can be constructed through the profane, raising questions about the purity of spiritual endeavors and the nature of divine providence. From a theological perspective, the idea of Solomon controlling demons raises questions about the nature of good and evil, free will, and the extent of human power in relation to supernatural beings. Some interpretations suggest that Solomon's control over demons symbolizes the triumph of wisdom and faith over the forces of darkness. Others view these stories as cautionary tales, warning against the dangers of dabbling in the occult and the potential corruption that comes with power. However, it's essential to approach these narratives with a critical perspective. They are products of their time, reflecting cultural beliefs and values about power, wisdom, and the supernatural. They are not historical accounts but mythological narratives that offer insight into the religious and cultural contexts in which they were created. The legend of Solomon's control over demons has had a lasting impact on cultural and occult traditions. In Western esotericism, the seal of Solomon has become synonymous with magical symbols or talismans, often used in various magical practices. The figure of Solomon as a magician king has permeated through various strands of folklore and esoteric traditions, influencing everything from medieval grimoires to modern magical practices.
It deals with demons, demon resurrection, and those forces which roam the forest and dark bowers of man's domain.
The influence of Solomon on Western esoteric traditions is perhaps most pronounced in the grimoires or magical textbooks that bear his name. These include the Key of Solomon and the Lesser Key of Solomon, which provide detailed instructions on how to summon and control spirits. These texts often describe the use of magical circles, pentacles, and specifically crafted seals or rings, similar to Solomon's ring, which are used to protect the magician and command spirits. In Freemasonry, King Solomon often symbolizes wisdom and divine authority. The construction of Solomon's temple is a key symbolic element in Masonic rituals, representing spiritual and moral building. Solomon's ability to master demonic forces, indirectly referenced through his wisdom and architectural achievements, is allegorically tied to the moral and spiritual control that Masons aspire to achieve. In Jewish mysticism, particularly in the Kabbalistic tradition, Solomon's wisdom is sometimes connected to esoteric knowledge and the mystical aspects of the Torah. His purported control over demons symbolizes mastery over the material and spiritual worlds. In literature and popular culture, these themes have been explored in numerous works, such as Goethe's Faust, where Solomon's magical knowledge and his control over spirits parallel Faust's own dealings with demonic forces. In contemporary times, Solomon's figure features in various fantasy novels and films, where his legacy as a wise but potentially morally ambiguous figure is explored. Elements from the Solomonic legends, such as magical rings, seals, and control over demons, are popular motifs in video games, tabletop RPGs, and fantasy novels. The story of King Solomon and his interaction with demons, as found in apocryphal and pseudepigraphical texts, serves as a rich vein of theological, moral, and cultural exploration. These narratives offer more than just fantastical tales of magic and supernatural control. They provide insight into the complexities of power, the human psyche, and our cultural grappling with good and evil. Solomon's legendary status as both a wise ruler and a master of demons continues to fascinate, warning us of the eternal allure and danger of seeking dominion over the unknown.